Oh,
Hey,
thank God.
how's it going?
You're here. I was getting worried for a minute.
Oh, come on.
right.
I never let you down.
Ready to do a show?
I'm pumped.
Let's do it. How's it going, Firebase developers? Welcome to another episode of Ask Firebase, the show where we answer your burning Firebase questions. I'm Jen Person, and today I am joined by a very special guest who works on a product that is really near and dear to my heart, Thomas Bolden. So, Thomas, what is it that you do here?
So I work on the project Cloud Functions for Firebase. It's basically what I've been doing my entire time here at Firebase. It was started by trying to get the real-time database connected to this new upcoming thing called Cloud Functions. We kept on kind of working on the user experience, and it ended up spinning into a whole set of tools to make Cloud Functions really fit in the Firebase developer experience.
Yeah.
Started with that, and now I focus also on trying to make sure we get you the best events for your Cloud Functions, that they are reliable, quick, and all of them that you need.
Great. We get a lot of questions about Cloud Functions for Firebase, so that's what we're going to look at today, if that's all right with you.
Of course.
All right, let's do it.
That was good. We have a question from Aaron Gates. Ask Firebase, how can we use tensorflow.js with Firebase functions?
Cloud Functions have a lot of great use cases for something that you want to spin up quickly and run and then shut down quickly. TensorFlow.js, if you're talking about large data sets that you're going to be running on, is not a very good use case for Cloud Functions. Even though you can extend the life of Cloud Functions, still not a very good use case for that. Now, we will link to some information about TensorFlow if you want some options, some Google options for how you can use TensorFlow and how that can still run some data sets and be connected to Firebase through your own server using the admin SDK. That's definitely an option. This next question was for me, but I'm going to pass it off for you. So, Cutie Go Live wants to know, I have a hashtag question about functions. Can we use export default and import ES6 in our functions projects?
Oh man, so this is kind of a halfway yes answer. So the version of node.js that we run in Cloud Functions does not yet support the ES6 style syntax of import and export. On the other hand, we do support TypeScript, which gives you these features ahead of time. But what's interesting is that ES6 default exports are not actually that smart. They're just literally an export called default. So you could do this, but you might actually end up with some slightly weird results when you use the entirety of the Firebase toolchain. So if you use the gcloud command line tools, the ones that Google Cloud Platform uses, the name of your export and the name of your function are totally separate. And so you could name it a very friendly name if you use default exports. With Firebase, we tried to just simplify the use case that most people fall into. And so we automatically name your Cloud Function whatever the export name is. So technically speaking, yes, you can use the default export, especially if you use TypeScript or in the future when we upgrade to the next version of Node.js. But your function is going to be called default, which probably isn't that useful.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this one I was like, wow, that is actually a really good question. You feel good about it? You want to do
Sure.
it? Let's take a crack at it. This next developer wants to know, when I go to the Cloud Functions UI, I can view all logs from an execution by an execution ID. Is there a way to get this execution ID in the currently executing function so I can send this ID in an HTTP error response for debugging?
So this is a great question. And frankly, thank you for asking it because it kind of helped raise awareness of something that we could do better. So in the HTTP functions, this is actually a header. So if you look at the request.headers section in your HTTP function, there's actually a field, I think the header is called function execution ID. And this is the same one that shows up in the logs. We are not currently doing what we should do to forward it inside the event object. And so thanks to this question, we've actually started raising the idea internally about how we should start exposing this so that you can do use cases like this.
Yeah, this is a great time to bring up then. When you come across something that you notice is missing, make sure you file a feature request. We really appreciate it. This is how we learn what is important to our developers.
Yeah. In the meantime, though, for these event-based functions, so for example, if you're handling a change in Google Cloud Storage or the real-time database, there's also something called the event ID. Now, you can use this almost instead of the execution ID. These are very related and almost subtly different concepts. When you call an HTTP function, it will either work or it won't. It happens one time and that's it. With event-based functions, you can turn on retries. And so if you want something to be what we call idempotent, so like it doesn't matter where it failed, it will keep on getting to the final goal when you do retries, you should use event ID for this. And you can also use it to log it and help find your logs in any error response. But if you actually need to know this exact function run, the way that we see them in the logs, that's the header that we're going to start looking at forwarding.
Cool.
Is this all one question?
Yes. This next question comes from Jay on Stack Overflow. And Jay is wondering about, in their Firebase RC file, I provided 2 Firebase databases, one that they're using for dev and one for production. We can show what that looks like. So when they're deploying to production, they just run Firebase use production, deploy only functions. The problem is they're also using cloud storage in one of the cloud functions. So they have 2 different service account key JSON files, which looks like this. I'm gonna make it appear here. So they want to know, how do I automatically switch to another service account key JSON file when I switch to another database via Firebase?
The first part of this answer is make sure you actually need to do this. So Google SDKs do a lot of really cool tricks behind the scenes so that you can automatically initialize them when you're running inside Google infrastructure. So this technology is called Google Application Default Credentials. It's a really cool thing to learn more about. And so unless you are specifically using the SDK to create a download URL, you actually don't need a certificate file at all. You can just initialize all the @Google Cloud SDKs with just open paren, close paren, and it works. And in fact, with Google Cloud Storage, we go a little bit further. And if you use the Firebase admin SDK, not only will we give you the right credentials, but when you say admin.storage, we know your default bucket. If you do intend to use the Google Cloud Storage SDK as it is alone, like I said, you can use the Google Application Default Credentials to initialize it automatically. You will need to know your bucket name in order to actually do anything with that. And we've actually deployed the default bucket name with your cloud function. So in functions.config.firebase.storage bucket, I believe.
Oh, nice.
So that, of course, is documented. So just go check out the Firebase docs and you'll find out those keys. On the other hand, if you do need that one API, the create public URL,
get signed URL.
Or so yeah, there we go. Clearly, you've been answering these questions a lot more recently than I have.
Yeah, this one comes up quite a bit.
So, man, I really want to get rid of this limit. But if you do need to use the certificate file for that one API, what I recommend you do is download your certificate and put it in the runtime config. You can put it in the same key for both your dev project and your prod project. That way, the code will work seamlessly on dev or prod and use the right credentials.
Cool. Yeah. And plus, you got to hide that. You're going to want to hide that key anyway. So there you go. Thanks so much for coming on and answering some questions about Cloud Functions for Firebase. Remember, if you have any questions about Cloud Functions or any other Firebase features, be sure to list them on social media with the hashtag AskFirebase, and you may see them on a future episode. And be sure to subscribe to the Firebase channel so you can check out new episodes of Ask Firebase, as well as Meet Firebase and Firecasts and all of the special features that we have going on there. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Of course, thank you.
And thank all of you for watching. See you on a future episode.
I am 10 times more famous than I was, 5 years ago, and that's still not saying a whole lot.
Yeah.